Alright, so we are going to create a particle effect. Currently we have our empty After Effects screen, so we need to create a new composition for this. So right click, new composition, we're going to call it particles, preset NTSC-D1. So if you see that, NTSC-D1, check. 10 seconds in duration, so that's the second column. And then we are going to create a new layer because we do not yet have a layer started. So, okay, right click, new layer. Now we want a new solid. A solid essentially takes over the entire screen. So as you can see, the dark gray solid is saying it's basically going to be a dark gray shape. In the dialog box, we're actually going to call this the particle 1. So if you want to have multiple particles, you can, but just so we know, particle 1. And we're going to make it the comp size, so it will take over the entire size of the composition. And we're going to say, okay, perfect. So with this layer selected, you know it's selected because it's highlighted white. Off, on. See the difference? Okay. You are going to go to Effect at the very top here and choose Simulation. All these are particle effects. So we can go to CC Particle Systems 2, for example, and it takes over the shape. So what once was a shape has now been imposed into this shape. So I'm going to scroll across my key here, and the particle takes root. There you go. If I want to better see this effect, I can turn off my transparency and again go through it, and there you go. You can see the effect. So it looks pixelated as you're rendering through because there's a lot of RAM going on that has to record everything. But if you scroll through it, there's the particle, nothing, and it explodes. So if you had an explosion, bam, and then you could shrink it again. Okay, so I'm going to set my marker to the 4-second marker where it's kind of at its maximum peak. And I am going to change some of the settings. So as you can see, with my particle selected, I get this new effect menu here. So we can change the color, the range, all of those effects. So if you drop down, you'll get more options within each one. And we are going to change the birth color, essentially. Okay, so on the particle, the birth color, if we didn't want it to be yellow, we could change it to something else. I'm going to just affect the color a little bit. So if we click on this, you can actually type in the exact hue of something you'd like. For this, I'm going to type 255, 200, and for the B50. And it kind of gives me a more of an orange yellow hue. Click OK, it applies that. The death color is what the color ends at. Right now it's going to end at red. So it explodes, it goes off, and then you see the red hints come to an end. So I'm going to go back to the 4-second marker, so we see it at maximum. Death color, select the red, and again you can change it to whatever color that you'd like, and you can see as it automatically affects it as you drop it. For this example, I'm just going to type 180. Oh, okay, sorry. 180, 180, and 180. And what that should give us is a gray color. And I'm going to click OK. So we have the light gray kind of hue in and out. Now, it stays on screen a long time, right? They explode, they don't disappear until they've really fallen the whole way down. So, at the 4-second marker again, I'm going to change the longevity value of our clip. Right now, each firework lasts for 2 seconds. We can actually change this. I'm going to say 0.8, so it's even less than a second. And as you can see, it goes to gray much faster and disappears on the screen much faster. So if you did the star motion tracking, you could apply this effect to that motion track as well if you wished, just by doing the same effects. So I'm just going to hide that particle system value. And I'm going to add a new effect to this. So I'm not adding another particle system, but I'm adding another effect. The reason why I hide it is because every time it adds effect, it goes in the same menu and it can become overwhelming. So you just hit the little arrow and close that folder. With that layer still selected, I'm going to go to Effect, Blur and Sharpen, and Fast Blur. Alright, so now I have a new menu. So see how before it could have been a lot to see? Now I just see the fast blur. We're going to change the blurriness value to 10. And it kind of creates an overall blur over the entire piece. And what we're going to ultimately do is try and create a glowing sun here. So I'm going to go to the 0.7 marker. 0.07. Right there. And I'm going to create a new layer on top. So I'm going to go to right click, new solid, and I'm going to call this the sun. This is showing how you can combine multiple effects so that one effect is behind and one is in front, and it creates the glow behind and the particle behind. Again, click to make comp size. Click the color swatch. And we're going to default it to be a sunlight color. So 255, 250. So we have a nice sun color. Click OK. And I'm going to drag the sun layer behind the particle layer. Perfect. Okay. With the sun layer still active, I'm going to grab the ellipse tool. Now that's a shape, it's a circle. To make a perfect circle, much like Illustrator, you hold shift and you create a perfect circle. It takes over the shape of that circle, and I'm able to make the solid, and I'm able to make just a circle. Perfect. So there's my sun to begin. All right. There we go. So if I have the sun layer selected, much like using the rotation before hitting R and scaling with S, I'm going to hit F and it gives me my feather options. So again, I hit F to get the feather options. And I'm going to change the mask amount to 100, 100. Now I'm really starting to get this sun kind of glow effect. Now what I'm going to do is move the current time indicator to match that marker so that it comes from nowhere and then my sun takes over. There we go. Now I'm going to hide all these drop-down properties for the sun layer because we no longer require them. We're going to now learn how to add light to the darkness. So making sure that your current indicator is still at 0.7. We are we're going to create a new solid layer. Right click, new solid layer. We're going to call this the background. Make comp size. Click OK. We've all of a sudden got this giant wet yellow box. We're going to drag it to the bottom of the stack. Go to Effect, Generate and ramp. So it's completely changed the outer area. Same deal here. If you had a picture or a clip behind it, that could be the option as well. But what it does, it creates a color gradient, blending it with the original image, and it creates a gradient of that space. So now in the effects control panel, we're going to change the start color of the ramp and the end color. So start of ramp 360, 240. And so it's changing our gradient. And then the end of ramp, we're going to have 360, 525. All right. So 360, 240, and 360, 525. Choose the radial ramp from the shape menu. So down here now becomes a radial glow. And right now the end color is white. We're going to reverse this to be the end color black. And to get black, for those of you who don't know, it's just 0, 0, 0, because it is the bottom of the RGB color. And now we want this layer as well to start at that same point. So we're going to go to our layer panel and drag that in to start at the same point. So we come from nothing, it appears, it takes over. There you go. Okay. There are more we can do, such as adding a lens flare to the shape. So again, you could have continuing of different effects going on top of each other to constantly edit what it looks like. So I'm going to move this to the home indicator. I'm going to create a new solid layer, new solid. I'm going to call this lens, L-E-N-S. And I'm going to again make it the comp size. And I'm going to set the background to black. So again, just click the black there or click that and go 0, 0, 0, 0. So, okay, with the lens layer selected, we're going to go to the effects panel, generate lens flare. Lens flare. There you go. Looks very familiar to Illustrator. So now we get to control our lens flare a little bit more. We're going to change the center starting point to 360 by 240. So it's right in the center where our sun is. We can actually change the effect of the lens, the zoom lens, which is awesome. We're going to make sure it's 50 by 300. And we're going to decrease the brightness to 0%. Why do you think we've done that? Any guesses? We are going to actually add a stopwatch to our effects. Here, so it's recorded that time, okay? And now we're going to just scroll across to where all our other action starts as well. So I'm going to go all the way to the 1 second marker. And then here, with that stopwatch still on, I can change the lens brightness to 240. You can go past 100. It's going to be like a flash of lightning. All right. Then I'm going to move ahead to 1 second and 4 milliseconds. Right there. Again, that time I'm reading is here for those who don't know. I'm going to go back to a regular 100. There we go. So it's recorded all those actions because my stopwatch was on. Now again, the best key to affect a layer is to hit the layer and hit U. And then that gives us right what we've recorded only. So it's the Uber key. All right, so with our only seeing what we've recorded, which is what we want, we are going to right click the last key, keyframe assistant, and we are going to go to an easy ease out. So it slowly eases out from that effect. I'm just going to change as well in my composition layer the background color so it's a black color. So this fully shows the effect properly. Okay, so what we have is nothing, goes to create flash of lightning and back to the 100%. Remember, see that? Perfect. So we need to deselect all our frames. So there's two options. You can click the dead space, but if you block the layers and you can't see it, the shortcut is F2, and everything becomes deselected. F2. And if that doesn't work because it's being frustrated, just click off. But F2 should be the shortcut. There you go, works there, to remove a layer. So no layers are active. You are going to go to columns and select the modes from the timeline. So your mode right here in this column currently says normal. We are going to change it to screen. So in this column, I've changed it to screen. So now we can actually watch what we've created. So again, hit the RAM preview button, and it should do a generated effect of what you've created. And the same way we added the ease in and ease out for the lens flare, you can do that for the particle. So if at any point, I'm just going to stop that. If at any point, for example, on this particle effect, I can see that it's come in, and at this point, maybe I want to start a keyframe for the particle. I can add a keyframe for it to ease in and out. So if I turn on the birth rate, for example, I can just right-click it, same deal, keyframe assistant, easy ease out, and it will start to ease the effect out as well. Right? So there are multiple things you can do as well within each of these. Or you can even change the entire growth of it just by further editing each effect. So I just want to show quickly some other effects you can do with the particle within the particle menu. So I'm just going to close this composition and create a new composition just so we can have a visual of what the other effects examples are. So particle 2. And if I now see I can't see my particles, I'm on particle 2. Same deal, right click. And the same way we started the last particle, you're going to right click and create a new a solid layer. And we're going to call this particle again because it'll be a particle layer. Make comp size, and okay. So we just have a general default layer that goes across the whole thing. And again, effect, simulation, and all of these are different simulations within it. So if you wanted to create a foaming effect, and you could further affect those bubbles to make them look more realistic. If you wanted to create hair feeling, rain feeling, shattering, acoustic, car dance, all of these are options within it. So if you have an idea for what you'd like, always check first if it is a default action. Another good place to view effects, oh, there you go, to affect the drizzle a little bit more first. Another good place to view effects is to go to the animation, browse presets. It will open up your Adobe Bridge menu. And from there, there's a whole other world of examples. And once it loads, I'll walk you through it. All right, so when the Adobe Bridge loads, it looks like this. And again, if you wanted something more defaulted to a style of genre, for example, if you're doing a horror clip or a scary movie, you can add kind of the fog and then edit the fog to look more realistic using the blurriness, the glows that we've all worked through, as well as the shapes do the same thing. There are options within each one if you wanted to transition to make a star, for example. those are all options within. And as soon as you find one, you just double click and it loads it into your screen.